Hi, everybody. I'm Deacon Dave.
Layperson Lisa.
Welcome to the Deacon
Deacon
Dave
Dave
and
and
Layperson
Layperson
Lisa
Lisa
show. All right, so we're going to talk. We just finished 11 miles today. We'll call it 12 for the day
Okay.
with some of our meandering around. And then we've been seeing these houses that are above the ground on like four concrete pillars of
Six.
kind of 6 or 4, right?
No, there's
Okay.
two different kinds.
Okay.
The
Well, go
lady
ahead,
gave
Lisa.
us
Why
the-
don't you tell us
The
about
lady
it?
gave us the lesson. It's 6 columns, and that's called a Panera. And it's a little house on stilts. And I didn't catch what the 4-pillar one was called.
Right. Me either. Well, we caught it, but we don't remember what it is.
Yes.
So tell us what they're used for, Lisa.
Food storage. We thought it was a house for wood because we saw one with a lot of wood underneath it, but it actually has like concrete steps and concrete pillars, and it allows people to store their food without the rats and rodents getting to it.
Yeah, and this is unique to the region of Asturia, which we've been in, and this is when we started to see them. And the girl here at the hotel, Carlos,
Carlos one.
yeah,
Hotel
the Hotel
Carlos,
Carlos
one.
One, confirmed that they are predominantly from and unique to this particular region.
Yes.
Now, these things are not small.
No,
I would say they're like 12 by 12, 15 by 15.
very big.
Yeah, so they're really big, and it's like a half a room.
It's very big.
You know what I mean? Like in terms of height, I don't think the ceiling
right.
height is like
right.
really that
right.
high,
right.
right?
I think it's tall enough to stand up in, probably.
Yeah, and so this makes me think about like, okay, storing things up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they store food up. So the question is, what is in our lives? What are we storing up? Are we storing up treasures from earth, or are we storing up treasures from heaven?
Mm-hmm.
And I dare not say more often than not, we are storing up things from heaven. And I've heard a funeral homily a couple of times where it may have been Father Peter Creed who said, you know, have you ever seen a U-Haul truck behind a hearse, right, carrying all of your stuff with you to the to where you're being buried? And I think so often in our attempt to make sure that we are secure for whatever undefined amount of time that we're going to live, that we maybe store up a little too much.
Yeah.
So I think there's a prudency, right? But there's also an excess. What do you think, Lisa?
Well, I think sometimes we do think so it's actually kind of a root of a wound in some cases. Like, so if someone has a habitual sin or a prevalence towards greed, then sometimes it's because they're searching for security in material things or money instead of security in Jesus.
Yeah, and you're right, Lisa. So often we can purchase things that we think are going to fill a void that only God can fill.
Yes.
And I have several stories in my own family, right? You can buy all the stuff you want, but you cannot buy joy and happiness.
Yeah.
That can only come from God.
Yeah.
And it becomes like an addiction, you know, whatever it might be, this pursuit of happiness. And instead of this pursuit of just knowing that we have a God who loves us and wants to spend time with us and gives us everything we need in the midst of whatever we have going on in our life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So what was the next thing, Lisa?
The other thing was today we had to climb through some very slippery mud, and you were holding on to the wire.
The barbed
in
wire.
Between the barbed wire, you were holding on to the non-barbed part of the wire.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we can kind of hold on to, when we're in a kind of a slippery situation, sometimes we hold on to things that could potentially hurt us versus letting, just having more of trust in God.
Yeah, and sometimes we hold on to the wrong things.
Yes.
Now, I was holding
But
on.
you didn't hold on to the wrong thing. You
No,
weren't holding on to
I was holding on to the barbed wire, but not the
Not the
barbs.
barb.
Right, so I was being
Yes.
very careful, and
Yes.
some plants along the way. But so often, when things get a little slippery, we may tend to cling to things that aren't good for us
Yes.
in our spiritual life. I mean, all the stuff that we're sharing, it seems, I think, for the most part, it's very simple and straightforward. But honestly, it's like stuff we do all the time.
Yes.
Right? It's stuff that we struggle with. It's the reality of our human condition, the ways that we act. And we really, need to kind of take heed and take notice to the importance of all of these things, because they have a cumulative effect
Yes.
on who we are and how we're living out our lives.
Yes. Yes.
It's sort of like walking the Camino, right? You start out the first day and your body gets adjusted and you're like, okay, got this all worked out. But there is a cumulative effect emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually that you can have as you are challenged by the different things that are happening on the Camino and in life.
Yes. Yes.
So wasn't there one other thing?
Yes. The other thing, I'll have to look.
She's going to have to look, but that is okay.
Okay. So sometimes certain factors can affect our performance. Like on the Camino, sometimes we have higher humidity. Sometimes we have hotter temperatures. Sometimes we have rain. Sometimes we have wind. Sometimes we haven't had enough rest. Sometimes we haven't hydrated enough or maybe eaten enough food. And so these things can all affect our performance. So these similar things can affect our performance as well in our spiritual life. Like if we're hungry or tired or dehydrated or these things can open ourselves up to be more prone to attacks of the devil.
So what do you think's been the biggest thing that has impacted you in terms of your ability to function on any given day on the Camino? What has been the
probably
biggest?
Hydration.
Hydration. So a lack of hydration?
Yeah, and I think food as well.
A lack of food?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. How about you?
Big hills.
Okay.
It was really weird today because we Debbie did great today, and we kept a good pace of about 2.4 miles an hour, including stops. I had a really good lunch. Debbie and Lisa, they got salads.
Oh, the dessert was really good.
But yeah, the dessert was off the charts, and we just had gelato, so we were full of sugar and good to go. But when we were walking today, and it was like it's like I hadn't seen a hill in like a year or something. When you first start, your body's like, okay, what are you doing right now? And then we had a 3-mile descent today.
Yes.
And so after the 3-mile descent, there was still another sizable hill to go up. And it's just like at the beginning, it's like, I don't think I can do this. It's like, oh, this is hard, especially when you're carrying a book bag that's fairly heavy.
Yes.
And so just kind of like, how do we kind of just get going, right? And stay committed and know that often things in our life, our spiritual life, and our life are going to be difficult, but that we have to persevere, and continue to work hard to really kind of move through whatever kind of difficulty it is that we have.
Yes.
I think we find this in ministry as well, right? Depending on the different ministries that you have, we might have a lot of expectations for how things should go. And then how they actually go are totally different.
Yes.
And so we can either get frustrated or we can persevere and ask God what he's calling us to do. And I think the same thing is true here. I don't think we've really got frustrated at all.
Right.
Tomorrow's a big test. So we have about 1,000-foot climb all at one time.
6 miles. 6-mile hill.
Over 6 miles, with the last 2 miles covering probably 700 to 800 feet. Up. And then after that,
we have 17 miles total.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, when we get to the top, we're going to take a break, celebrate, and then
head on down.
Yeah, and then head on down. Hopefully, like the terrain, right? The terrain can really affect your ability to go downhill. I actually think with worse terrain, not wet terrain, but like rocky terrain,
it's harder, to go downhill
than it is to go
for sure.
uphill.
Absolutely,
right?
100%. Yeah.
I think I probably go just as fast on rocky terrain uphill.
Yeah,
as I do on a road.
Yeah.
But downhill,